Welcome to the Maximum Libertarian Podcast. I hope myself and my guests can effectively explain why individual liberties are essential to building a stronger community and supporting and helping the growth of the Libertarian Party. So please go over to MaximumLibertarian.com to discover all the ways you can help grow this podcast. Now on with the show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Roanoke Valley Libertarian meeting here in Roanoke, Virginia. We're at Corned Beef and Company, and today we are joined by the LNC. He's going to be running for LNC Chair, Rob Yates. Welcome for coming on. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Rob Yates. I am currently the Libertarian Party of North Carolina Communications Director. I've also thrown my hat in the ring, as it were, for the LNC chair position at National Convention in Grand Rapids. Okay. I have been a libertarian from the beginning. I registered independent in Virginia when I turned 18 in 98 because we were not on the ballot there yet. And I've been registered as a libertarian here ever since. I came up in sort of a traditional Republican household back when Republicans acted like they believed in small government. I got to high school, and I always joke, I'm really not a big like marijuana rights or gay rights activist, but the two issues that bugged me the most in high school were gay marriage and marijuana being illegal, because I couldn't wrap my head around the party saying that they wouldn't legislate morality, and they didn't believe in big government trying to essentially prevent two people from entering into a contract or putting people in a cage for like doing something in their basement. So I started studying more, still didn't have much of an outlet, and then during the 98 primaries, I came across a guy. He's a little vague. You may have heard of him. His name is Dr. Ron Paul. And it was like the clouds parted and the light shone through, and everything changed. Got to college, did a lot of anti-war activism, discovered Reason magazine, and really kind of found a name for myself. And I don't tell this story much, and I should more, because it's one of my biggest flexes, I guess. So I went to George Mason, and I studied technically English and psychology, specifically creative writing. But my dad turned me on to someone named Walter Williams, who taught at George Mason. And I went and introduced myself, and Dr. Williams is one of the most friendly, warm, kind people I've ever met. But he had me come and check out a few of his lectures. We got coffee a couple times, and he got me into Austrian economics. And, ever since, my journey has just been everything I do. It's like one step more. You can't get less libertarian once you've opened your eyes. So here I am, hoping to. I don't know. I don't like the concept of a quote unquote union per se, because I think there's so compromise implied in that word that people don't want to make. But I want to be a solidarity candidate. I want to deprioritize the areas where we disagree, prioritize the much greater number of areas where we do agree. I want to work on messaging and communications and real outreach to grow the party, not turn people off before they've even had a chance to get to know where we are. And I want to see us actually start to be relevant, for real relevant in all areas of politics, so not just some areas where we're lucky or when the uniparty sees fit to try to leverage us.
Right. Dr. Paul, I got out of the Navy in 2006, and I saw him.
Can I jump in right there? This is important to me.
Yes.
So, yes. Libertarian, freedom and liberty are my highest values. You were willing to die for mine. Thank you for your service from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, you're welcome. When I got out of the service, because I also came from the Republican side, and the foreign policy is what got me out of the Republican Party. I was already losing faith in them. And then I saw Ron Paul on Fox News, and there was like a 5-minute piece on Neil Cavuto. And I said, this is the guy that we need to be backing. And I remember I voted for him in 2008 in the primary, and I voted for him in 2012 in the primary. And he's brought so many people over to the Libertarian Party. And I think he's definitely a great ambassador of the thing, and so many people like him. Yeah.
Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm agreeing with you.
Right now, no, I'm trying to think. Yeah, he's very good at it. But I tell you, the one thing that I've started to have my issues with the Libertarian Party about, since you're a communication director, I've never done drugs. I never did marijuana. I never did any type of alcohol, cigarettes, typical things. But I've always said legalize everything. But at the same time, I think just saying legalize it all, it's kind of scares everybody, because if you do legalize everything, there is ramifications to it, and I think that's what I think libertarians stop short on, that we go legalize sex work, let's just say, and then we just stop it. No, if you become a sex worker, there is some aspects. You don't proudly walk down the street. I mean, I know there's some ladies and guys that'll do that, but for the most part, that's stuff that you don't really brag about. This is my, and also understand that it can bring bad things. What do you think about that? The messaging has been, we always stop short. It's the right message, but it's just that we need to continue it on so we don't scare people. Am I wrong?
You hit on two things there that I think are important, and I work on them. I find myself falling guilty of these traps too. But the first one is we love to offer platitudes, but we don't explain what we're pushing back against or why it's a good idea. So it's not that we're for drug legalization or for sex work legalization. It's that we are for personal responsibility, personal accountability, and the removal of the government from every aspect of your life as long as you're not hurting someone else. And yes, those things being legal implies the government has some right to tell you not to, but yes, making those things legal is a necessary consequence of that. But it also, one of the things that drives me crazy is people that get real worked up about the drug legalization stuff. And I'm like, what are you worried about? That we'll have 100,000 overdose deaths? Oh, wait, because that happened last year and everything's illegal. Are you worried about people stealing and doing a bunch of drugs? Like, all of this is enabled because of prohibition-based policies. And the second thing that you get at, so you're talking about like the social pressure on a sex worker. When you add the element of personal accountability, what you do is you incentivize everyone to work for bettering the collective for themselves. You get in a position where instead of shaming the sex worker, they're saying, how does someone get in this position? Because you're right, almost no one wants to be doing that. So now they're looking around. What job opportunity did she not have? What thing are we missing? How can I, as an individual, voluntarily commit to a better society instead of the government trying to come down and socially engineer how things work out? And that's where you actually end up. And again, we get mistaken for being utopian, and we need to be careful of that too, because we are far from that. We're realists. But we're realists that say you can have the best possible society where everyone gets lifted up. Hey, one second. Just 1 second.
All right. Let's see. I'll start with my questions now. What motivated you to run for the LNC chair at this time, and what do you see the biggest challenges facing the Libertarian Party heading into 2026?
I'm trying to think of something that I haven't said before to answer that, and I want to give unique answers without getting too far away. So I'm not going to sit here. I don't necessarily want this, but I put it in quotes because I'm not one of those like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm just I think I would be good at it, and that's why I'm running. I think I have ideas that would work, and I think I can make things better. So it's not a matter of want or not want. It's a matter of opportunity and skill set and experience that I think matches the needs of the moment. I think that I don't know if you're familiar with game theory. I do a lot of my life based on like game theory, strategics, and processing. We are playing a game where the power we are fighting against makes the rules, owns the refs, owns the judges, changes the rules at their whim, doesn't follow the rules, but holds everyone else to them, has all the money, has all the best players, and has all the media around it. And we're like a JV team. And I don't mean to be hyperbolic. The disparity is that dramatic. There are places where it's closer for various reasons, but overall, that's what we're up against. We have to be realistic about what we're trying to accomplish. And it's not that I don't think we can win. It's that I think if we sit and we're infighting with each other, or we're getting into, one of the things that drives me crazy is like very public arguments that libertarians have about like anarchy versus minarchy, or the morality of the atomic bomb, or should we get rid of the Civil Rights Act? And like, I have strong opinions on all of those things, but that's not going to change the average voter's mind. We need to be going out and saying, hey, check out how the government has made your life worse and how our way would make your life better. Look how we can get your kids into a good school where they get a real education, not an indoctrination. Look how you can have more of your money to keep and better services to go with it. Look how competition's going to drive things down and reduce your work hours and give you more family time. Look at what happens when you create a healthcare system that's based on healing people and wellness, and not just getting people, you know, hooked on whatever pill that they're going to profit from because they're backed by 18 levels of government liability protection. These are kitchen table issues. This is what people want to be talking about. And it's really in terms of framing this messaging that I think I can do a good job. I also have a lot of professional experience, like team building and, you know, creating new teams for specific projects with set timelines. And I think that there's a couple areas where we can bring in the right people and get them doing what they're good at. We could definitely use some IT updates and have some systems and applications that are working for us in ways that people are using. Because one thing is, you know, popular in IT, like how great an app is, if nobody's using it, it stinks.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. As someone who has run for local office, you ran for mayor of Charlotte. How do you plan to prioritize and support ballot access, candidate recruitment, and winnable local races nationwide?
So that's an excellent question. So I remember I took this management training course a long time ago, very long, over 20 years ago now. I don't remember much from it, but the guy who taught it, one of the earliest things he said was, if it's not your top priority, it's not a priority. Now, I don't know that I agree with that exactly, but I agree with the underlying sentiment. You can't have 25 priorities because they all get deprioritized.
Right.
I also have to recognize, especially in politics, more than anything else I've ever encountered, various aspects that feed into each other. So candidate recruitment, successful campaigning, fundraising, volunteer and outreach growth, events, they all feed into each other. And losing one of them will hurt the others. I think that the goal of the LNC in terms of candidate recruitment and campaign support is actually, it is a very centralized function. So we need to provide the tools in terms of whether it's off-the-shelf customizable websites, whether it's, you know, connections to merchants that can do cheaper merchandise or customized merchandise where we have deals, campaign training videos, support staff, and all these things. And we need to put it in a place that is very easy for our candidates to access and to understand. We need to have people they can connect with. And then what we're doing is not conditioning or trying to engineer them, but we are empowering them and the state and the local affiliates to run the best campaigns that they can and to adapt with the tools that we've offered them to the environment where they are operating. It's like in North Carolina, a campaign looks a lot different than, say, in Minnesota for a libertarian.
Right.
Website.
You know, one thing that I think libertarians need is those that'll come in, they'll tell you how to dress. You know, even myself, because like when I think about myself and like the colors play really into, you don't even think about it, but like if you wear a red tie, this means this. People think that, you know, with that fashion coordinator. And I think that's an important thing that people should be thinking about too, always when they run for public office, to think about things like that. But yes, the LP has experienced internal divisions in recent years. How would you work to bridge the gaps between the different factions? That's blew my mind as bad as it's been. I've never seen it. I've been here since 2010, and I can't ever remember it being so. All right, when Chase Oliver wins, this side seemed to lay down. If had it been Michael Rectenwald, this side would have laid down. I don't feel that it would have been any, you know, and kiss my ring, I'm the real libertarian in the room, so blah, blah, blah.
I'm not, you know, at all.
And that just, like, give me a break here. We're on the same team here.
So
what would you do?
Well, I want to go back to the thing you said about like how to dress. Because little things like that are important and we miss it. And so I love meeting and talking with libertarians. So like I come down, I'm wearing a Blink-182 t-shirt. I'm meeting y'all. I knew it wasn't going to be an issue. I don't look bad. I'm just, you know, right. Tie, but you get it. But if one of my candidates is going to an event with normies, so to speak, I'm like, you put on a tie or a sweater, or you dress appropriately to the situation. You think about the colors you're wearing. If you're wearing all blue or all red, you're sending a message. You know, these are things you got to ponder all the time. And that actually feeds into the question about nationalism. All right, how to phrase this? The best bromide or organizational discord is success. So you want to fix the factions, you want to fix the breach, let's start succeeding. Let's give people something to rally around. If it feels like we're failing, if things are bad, then you're fighting with each other, there's finger pointing, there's blaming going on. Let's win some high profile races. Let's hit some fundraising numbers. You know, let's grow membership to something like extraordinary. That will fix the divide. And then you just have to require that people operate in good faith. So it's okay to be wrong. In fact, it's necessary to be wrong, and you learn from it. And when something doesn't work, we say, okay, now we know that doesn't work. We'll try the next thing. When things are going badly and things aren't working, it's, hey, how did you mess up instead of what messed up? And then we can't trust that person anymore. And then there's name calling. There's so much name calling, and it's so stupid. Well, I think that it's not about being a bridge builder or like fixing the factional divide. It's about being a strong and competent leader. It's about giving everyone a voice, but then being decisive. So everyone feels heard. And when you don't go along with what someone wants, they know why, but you understand their opinion was respected. And then it's about, honestly, those who are just there to tear things down, you got to get rid of them. Like an organization, I've worked at some big banks, some big companies. Someone was out there trying to destroy the reputation of those banks. That person would be gone so fast. Like, I don't know why. To me, it's not a free speech issue. This isn't the government. This is the advancement of the Libertarian Party.
Right. What specific strategies would you implement to grow the Libertarian Party membership and increase ballot access in more states? Because that's a big thing. I noticed I'm on a couple of Facebook groups, and it's almost like we celebrate. But it's those posting or celebrating bad numbers, and I don't get it. To me, it's like, once again, it goes back, and I really like your last answer. But what do you have any strategies that you would like to implement to grow membership?
Yeah, several actually. There is an idea we've been kicking around with some other people that I would like to really flesh out and explore more fully, of hosting some regional events and finding some more high profile, bordering on celebrity libertarians to host, to get people to come. want to really increase volunteer training on how to do outreach and how to do membership recruitment. And again, coming back to that sort of centralized repository for tools that people can use, I want to make sure there's like how to start an affiliate, how to grow an affiliate, how to fundraise, like things like that, so people aren't going in just blind and unaware of what they're doing. Ballot access is a near and dear to my heart issue because it's the stupidest thing in the world and one of the greatest gatekeeping achievements that the Uniparty has. A belt of weapons against anyone but the Uniparty. North Carolina has some of the more restrictive ballot access laws, except once you get on, it's not that hard to stay on. Other places I know it could be incredibly difficult. I would love to see the abolition entirely of political parties as a recognized thing in the United States. Like, you want to say you're a Republican, the Republican Party wants to back you, fine, but there's no nowhere in our Constitution, nowhere in our founding documents, nowhere in our governing documents does it say Republican or Democrat must be listed next to the name of a presidential candidate. The entire concept of political parties is anti-American and anti-liberty to me. But to get changes like that to happen, you got to win the stuff to pass the legislation. And so, again, that goes back to the game we're playing. We got to play on the field that is presented to us. And I think that following up on the success breeds success thing, like I really liked Lars' idea when he was running for the presidential nomination of putting all of our resources into one of the Maine or Nebraska districts just to get one electoral vote. I don't know if that is necessarily the right allocation of resources. Fortunately, I wouldn't have to make that call because we've got a couple of years. But something along those lines, like picking a few high-profile places where we can really put resources and actually get wins. Because I think there's a lot more people who are natural libertarians in this country than registered, and they don't vote for the party that they're with. They vote against the other party because they're afraid we can't win. And if we start showing some victories, I think that success will snowball into much broader success.
I totally agree with you. I actually talked to a lady, and she was like, she's running for school superintendent down in Georgia, and she said that she's running as a Republican, but she said she would probably run as a Libertarian if there was more, if it wasn't as hard, we didn't have as many issues, media blackout, ballot access, all the good stuff there. But I think what you said there was good, right?
Well, it's a catch-22 because with the recent, some of the stuff that happened in the last couple of years of like, we're going to back a Republican just outright, which I don't think that's a good strategy. But it does come around to the other side. It's like, why do people want to run as Libertarian if we can't win? If they just change their registration to Republican, all of a sudden they start winning. And so we have to provide a better platform for people to springboard into winning. I don't think that's an unrealistic goal at all. I think that's actually fairly achievable. We just need to get serious about it.
Yes. How do you plan, let's see, excuse me. How do you plan to improve the party's messaging and communication on a national level, drawn from your experience as the communication director down in North Carolina?
So, yeah, that's a good question. Media and public relations are very different at a national level than they are at a state level. And some of the principles hold, but the tactics are very different. At the state level, especially in North Carolina, there's still like real news stories. Articles matter, the policy positions that affect the state, people here get into them, they care. At the national level, it's much more about, it's an attention economy, it's sound bites. I mean, you saw the debate with Trump and Kamala, like neither of them said anything coherent, but there were a lot of sound bites that came out of it. So with that as my foundational idea, I want to do some things to kind of shake it up and get some attention at the national level. So like one of the things I would love to do is to get a couple of libertarian reporters credentialed at congressional and White House press hearings. And I think back to during COVID, I don't know if you remember, but like Jen Psaki would be doing the press conferences, and Peter Ducey would come in and ask some question, just a bomb drop, like, why is President Biden unable to form a coherent sentence while pushing the jab that he's getting paid for? And then she'd be like, Peter, and it was like, whether his questions were legitimate or not was irrelevant, because I do think he asked some good ones. It didn't matter. He was dropping bombs. They were getting that attention. I think if we've got people in positions like that asking some real libertarian questions, like oh God, why can't I think of her name? What's our 28-year-old press secretary's name now?
Oh, I know who. Carolyn Levitt, is that her name?
Oh yeah, there it is, Levitt. Yeah. So like, hey, Carolyn, why is Donald Trump proposing the exact same protectionist trade policies that Ted Kennedy proposed in his 1996 platform? Like, that stuff gets, it goes viral. It carries the media. Like, that's how we start getting some national attention. Then you get people doing, Googling what is a libertarian, checking out their local affiliates. And if we've built some good messaging and have this foundational infrastructure that they can get to, that becomes a virtuous cycle. And all of a sudden, more people are looking into it. More people are joining. They're hating the uniparty, but they're seeing a road to success through us, and they're bringing even more people in.
Okay. The Libertarian Party emphasizes on non-aggression, fiscal responsibility, and individual liberty. How would you ensure the LNC upholds these core principles without compromising them for short-term political gains?
I always joke, the problem with politics is that there's so much compromise, and once you've made a compromise, you're compromised. That being said, we have to be willing to be flexible. And that doesn't require us to violate any of our principles, but there's just things that are going to be priorities. Again, you can't change the whole world at the same time. And so if we can take some big wins, but it comes at the expense of not putting time or resources into things that we'd also like to see, you got to do that. That's not a violation of the NAP. That's saying if I can make it 50% better, that's better than 0% better. And it also, again, you get a little legislative success, a little electoral success, it starts to breed more, and that's how we fix everything.
Right.
I do think that staying true to our principles is actually the most important thing we can do. Again, as long as we're not sort of insanely pedantic about the way we talk about it. Because the uniparty has only creating hatred for the other side. That's really what their weapon is. If we can offer something better, something real, people will be attracted to that. They just need to believe in it.
Right. What role should the National Party play in supporting state affiliates like the LP North Carolina, especially in areas like fundraising, training, and legal defense?
So I don't have the full answer to that question. I think it's something we have to figure out. I think it's something that changes based on specific situations and how much other entities, like other state affiliates, might want to support certain things. I think that the LNC should be a relatively hands-off entity. I think it should be there to build the support infrastructure, the IT infrastructure, the messaging infrastructure, all these things I was talking about to help states, counties, and candidates succeed. And I think it should be the defender of the name of the Libertarian Party. So if it's to remove certain entities that are hurting us, then that's a valid role. Other than that, resource allocation should be primarily dedicated. And I talk a lot about resource allocation, but in politics, that time and money and people, that's really what everything is. So this resource allocation should be dedicated primarily to things that grow the name, the influence, and the positive perception of the Libertarian Party. Where there is opportunity to do that at a state or local level, then we should put everything into it. So if there's we can win a race in Kansas or something. I'm just throwing some stuff out. Yeah, of course the National Party should get behind that, because winning a Senate race would be massive and it helps everyone. That's not irresponsible resource allocation. If a state party is facing legal difficulties that are unfair, the uniparty is going after them, I do think the LNC should, on a best efforts basis, try to defend them, because that's defending liberty across the board. You know, they're looking for chinks in our armor, and if we can prevent them from taking advantage, that's a success for everyone. But I don't think it's the LNC's responsibility to do much more than help with publicity on an all-the-time basis for what the states are up to. In fact, they should let the states mostly do what they're going to do if they're not hurting the brand.
Okay. How would you address the criticism about the party being too focused on infighting rather than electoral success, and what concrete steps would you take to shift that focus? And that's the truest statement. I mean, it seems like we'd rather infight than win. I think we'll cut our own feet off to make sure we lose sometimes.
It blows my mind. Like Liberty, we are our own worst enemy in so many ways. And I often say, like, we would rather say "I told you so" as the world explodes than do something to prevent it from exploding.
Right.
And I can't believe some of the people fighting with each other, because
Yeah.
so, like, the immigration issue, right? What a polarizing issue. It's polarizing for the country too. Me personally, for public policy, I'm with Chase Oliver. I like the Ellis Island solution. If you are a full property rights, open board, no such thing as a border and cap, cool. And if you think that Biden was sort of deliberately importing people to, you know, mess with voting numbers and rig elections for the future, you can also make that argument. And it's disingenuous for anyone to say that the other side in this particular issue doesn't have a salient argument. Where I draw the line is when masked federal agents without identification of any sort are operating with zero accountability above the law. And I feel like all libertarians should be okay with that position. Then we reframe. So what do you want to do about immigration? Well, I'll tell you what I want to do about immigration. I want to stop all welfare, period, but we can start with people immigrating, you know, baby steps, and remove any incentive for them to come here. If people can come here and make it on their own, they should be welcome to do so, but they should not be taking stolen resources of Americans to do it. Now, there are people that won't agree with me on that, and there are subtleties and nuances, but this is like a reasonable and a rational discussion. And we can have that, and then we can go and we can present our policy position to the country. And that's the good way to do it, instead of pointing fingers and screaming names. I will say I'm pretty good at ignoring the noise. I'm mission oriented. I like succeeding. I really like succeeding. I'm hyper competitive. So if people want to scream at me, I'm just going to go and get stuff done, and that'll shut them up. And if they keep screaming to our detriment, then, you know, what do you do when you have cancer? You remove the cancer.
Right. And then we had a gentleman say that I think everyone in the LP can agree that the current immigration system is broken.
Amen.
So, all right. Now, let's see. With the 2026 midterms approaching, what would be your top priorities for helping Libertarian candidates in congressional, state, and local races?
So in 2024, North Carolina ran more state-level candidates, third-party candidates, state-level third-party candidates than every other state put together. We had more people run for North Carolina General Assembly or State House than all third-party candidates in all other states ran for the state-level legislature. And we did this by essentially the model that I'm suggesting. A state party created a foundation that candidates could use. We had website development support, templates. We had messaging development support, press release development support, trainings on how to do it, press trainings. We tracked events, advertised people. When people needed funds, we contributed them, especially for filing fees. And then from that, we built this mentor program where people who have run campaigns before help new people running campaigns. And there's some symbiosis there, because the new people running campaigns will help out on their mentors' campaigns as well. So everyone's working together. and it's building all the campaigns. I don't see why we can't do something like that with the National Party. I don't know if you know Sean Kennedy. He's head of the American Liberty Caucus, and I believe he's chair of the Massachusetts affiliate. But he's written this whole playbook on like things that we can do, and I don't know why it hasn't gone further at national. But I will definitely be bringing it in. That dude he's a rock star. We have a lot of really good people, but we're so focused again on this infighting and finger pointing that instead of reifying and uplifting the people who are doing well, we just want to cut each other down, and that's ridiculous to me. So I'll uplift people. I will support people. I will get the hell out of the way of good people doing good things because I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not, and I'm happy to let people do what they're good at. That's how we succeed.
Right. Andy, this is Rob Yates.
Great,
this is our. He's one of the founders here of Corona Valley Libertarians. I just wanted to say, if you do have any questions for him, just while he's speaking, just let you know.
Okay.
Okay. If anything, I just wanted to make sure I stepped in there real quick. All right, number 10 here. How do you view the relationship between the Libertarian Party and libertarian-leaning figures or movements within major parties? Example, the Liberty Republicans. We had just last year, or was it last year, when Mike Tremont went over in Liberty Caucus with the Republican, and he took a lot of good libertarians with him. How do you view that relationship?
So I will say, before I give my answer, that the Mike Tremont situation, I think, was a bit more of a one-off, unique situation just because of what the infighting had driven. So I don't know that he and others would have made that decision if they weren't. If the option for us wasn't a party that was, kind of falling apart at the seams. Broadly speaking, I will say this: I love my Liberty Republicans and Liberty Democrats, the few that still exist, and we need lots more Republicans and Democrats to focus on liberty, and I hope they drive their parties in that direction. But I'm interested in the Libertarian Party. And they're welcome to come join and work with us as long as it's positive. In terms of like the strategic and tactical relationship, this comes back to resource allocation. So like, if we have money to support a candidate, say, I would much rather put that candidate into going against like Lindsey Graham or Gavin Newsom than Thomas Massey. Are you going to spend money to go against the only good person we have in Congress? And when you say Liberty Republicans, I question whether some of them even have earned that moniker. But Thomas Massey is essentially a libertarian. So yeah, it's just when we're big enough to compete with them, the Republicans, Democrats on a one-to-one basis, then people like Massey would run for the Libertarian Party. And then there would be no prioritization choices we have to make. But for right now, we need to go after the bad ones, and those are the races we need to support because that's where we have room to maneuver.
Okay. What lessons from your Charlotte mayoral campaigns have you applied, or would you apply to your national level organizing and voter outreach?
So I would start by saying you should never run for office, but I just haven't learned that lesson. I remember my first run for Charlotte mayor. It was a couple days before my wedding anniversary, so it was October 20-something, 2023, and the October 7th Hamas attack in Israel was still fresh on people's minds. And someone asked me what I thought about it. What do you think of Hamas on October 7th? And I said, I think we need body camera reform in North Carolina. And I'm still very happy with that answer. Remember that there are two things that matter in changing people's political mind. First is the economy. When Clinton said it's the economy, stupid, he knew exactly what he was talking about. You hurt people's wallets, you make them scared about food on the table, about where they're going to sleep, about their future. Nothing else matters, and they will give up their safety for that. And the second thing is it's local kitchen table issues. People don't care so much even about like a war overseas, but they care about people they know being brought to a war overseas. Defend the Guard is a much more palatable thing to push than just I'm against war. Well, what does that mean? Who's for war? What are you against all wars? What if someone attacks us? Like, don't leave room for philosophical wavering. Give answers, give solutions, and explain why our solutions are better and why things aren't working the way they are now. And I think that addresses the entire messaging issue from the top all the way to the local candidates.
If elected chair, how would you approach fundraising, transparency in the LNC operations, and accountability to the membership?
So I will tell you, of all the skill sets that you would want to see in a good chair, fundraising is probably my weakness. And I do have a lot of experience with event management and putting on different events and raising money from those. And I would be pretty heavily focused in that. But in terms of broad nonprofit style fundraising strategies, there are people out there who are much better than I am, and I would bring them in, and I would hear their ideas, and then get firmly behind those that have proven track records of success.
Okay. How important is media outreach, traditional and social media, to the party's future, and what innovations would you pursue in this area?
So when I first became comms director in LPNC, it's like 5 years ago now, I reached out to Karen Ann, because she had been comms director in several places a number of times. And I was just like, I've done marketing and communications my whole career, but I've never done it in the political sphere. Teach me, impart some wisdom. And she had a lot to impart, but one of the things she said was put out a press release every week, because you never know when it'll be slow news week or something will just get picked up. Now, we actually put one out every other week, and there's just a cadence issue with that. But it has borne positive results many times. Stuff comes through, it gets picked up, all of a sudden it's on the wires, you're seeing it in a bunch of different news outlets. We're getting calls, now we're getting on the radio. I think that successful media outreach, like I said, there are some things you can do at the federal level where you can take advantage of, the whole social media and viral attention economy. But at a grassroots level, successful media outreach, you just got to put in the grind. You got to put out the content. You got to stay relevant. You got to have fresh opinions on things that are happening right now. And you just keep doing that. And that's, you build. It's something to build. It doesn't just happen. Rare, and then you got the flash in the pan syndrome. If you can't keep up at that level, all of a sudden you're irrelevant again.
Okay. What is your vision for the Libertarian Party in the next 4 to 8 years, and how would your leadership move us closer to electing more libertarians and advancing liberty?
So I think the first thing that we really need to do, probably over the next 2 years, is bolster our foundation and solidify that foundation for significant growth after that. So, yeah, membership and fundraising numbers back up, probably a little over the highest they've ever been, but not some exponential growth, and settle there and be confident there. And then this infrastructure that I'm talking about, I very much mean an actual infrastructure. So applications that are useful, that people will use, that we have distributed widely. Candidate resources, campaign resources, mutual aid sort of communication channels where, there's a civil rights violation in one state and they need support from others who have been through the same thing. And opening up this way that we are taking advantage of the full intellectual and experience capacities of everyone in the party. Once you have that infrastructure in as a foundation, and I will say, it's my understanding Amanda Griffiths and Tony D'Orazio are running for vice chair, both excellent people. I know them well. I have been working, and Amanda's doing most of the work, to be fair, but on a dramatic bylaws revision. I don't want to front run too much of it because it's still in draft stage, but it's designed to make the whole party a little bit more nimble, not so beholden to any malign entity that might want to come in at any point and try to influence things in the wrong way, but also to reward the more active affiliates and not punish the others, just kind of give them their space. So along those lines, you create this more nimble, more flexible, but more active national entity and create a foundation that the state affiliates can build on then you have so many options for hopefully explosive growth. And the question is, at that point in time, what are the one or two things we want to prioritize, and what do the states need from us to grow themselves?
Okay. We got a comment there, and that was, let's see, this comes from a gentleman down in right past Lynchburg. There we go. Let's get the 5th Congressional District of the LPVA back in track. He's very true. We used to have a really good organization between over here on this side of the state, and I hope we get this back moving in the right direction, because everything points to the right. I mean, when I lay out the libertarian ideas, the platform, everyone likes it. But then when the rubber meets the road, and the one vote that really matters is when you go to the election polling booth, they always get scared. And it's the day you realize that, don't be scared, just go on and take that plunge. You know, remember, do you ever see Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade?
Of course.
When he had a step and he had to believe, and that's what it almost feels like. Yeah. You got we're that invisible bridge, and you got to throw sand there.
You're spot on. Right. Once you make the jump, you don't go back. But yeah, it's getting people over that. It is a tiny, tiny hurdle, but it is a massively powerful hurdle.
Right. And yeah, you know, shoot, there's been multiple times where I've tried to plug back in, and that's just like I can't. You know, the plug don't fit. You know, it's like the Matrix. I'm trying to, it just don't work. So, and I like being here. I would rather be on the libertarian side, getting 0.4% of the vote, than staying and having to try to, well, this is why I voted for this candidate. You know, I always feel proud of my vote most of the time. You know. All right, final question. Why should delegates at the 2026 convention in Grand Rapids vote for you over the other candidates for LNC chair?
So I have met 3 of the other people who have said they would be seeking the LNC chair position. I know a 4th one. I heard there might be a 5th. I'm not sure. I don't want to throw names out just because I'm not sure about the 5th, and I don't want to seem like I'm playing favorites. But I will say I feel pretty confident in the future of the party, in that we have a lot of good people running. So I don't want to tell you should vote for me over them. I want to tell you, here are my ideas, and here's why I think they will work, and I'm very confident in them. And if you like my ideas, then you should absolutely vote for me. And if you don't, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be trying those ideas somewhere else. So, you know, just listen to what each person's plan is, and I believe mine's the strongest. I'm confident in winning votes, just on the battlefield of ideas.
All right, you sounded very good. Thank you so much for coming on. This will be my last question. What did you think of Blink 182 when was it Tom DeLonge was out of the band and they had the other guy in? I thought it was a good. I shouldn't have said that. I should say, what did you think of it before I give you my opinion?
So, I do love Blink. Dude Ranch is one of my favorite albums of all time. I've seen them like 8 or 9 times. So saw them 6 when I was much younger, and 2 in the last couple of years. Blink is one of the few bands I've ever heard that lost a member for a bit and didn't fall off that much. But I think they're better songwriters when it's the 3 of them.
I agree with you. But I did like the other stuff that the other guy brought in. I can't remember his name, but I thought that Dark Side, I thought it was good.
I was surprised. You expect it to be way worse, but I don't know. Yeah. Actually, surprisingly really good.
Oh, I like the new one. All right. Well, once again, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I will see you in 2026. 2020. We are in 2026. I'll see you in May up in Grand Rapids. So I'm ready to go. So, all right. I will see you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Maximum Libertarian Podcast. Visit MaximumLibertarian.com to help me grow this podcast. So until next time, my friends, stay centered.